Welcome to Grade A Fun.
Whoa.
Yeah. I feel like I should have been a rock star. So this is the beginning of Inktober edition. First of all, shout out to Jet Pens for some of the best pens ever. Fast delivery. Also, shout out to everybody watching this video.
Thank you. No, seriously.
If you haven't subscribed, subscribe now.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
So right now I'm just going through a list of the tools I use. I want to briefly talk about some techniques. Again, there are no rules. You can approach this however you want. But right now I'm starting out with that .005 pen. It's a technical pen, so you get some thick and thin, but there's very little difference between the thick and thin. So really what you're gonna spend a lot of time doing is contour hatching or cross hatching or very even technical lines. The same thing with this .08 technical pen. With any of the technical pens, you know, the way that you're going to derive most of your value is through building up lines, and the closer you place the lines, the more value transition you build up. So that second example was pretty much just vertical horizontal cross hatching. So this next one is a brush pen. This very last one is another TOMBOW brush pen, and you can see that you can vary the line thickness. So depending on if you're drawing with your wrist or if you're drawing with your arm, you can vary the thickness of the line that you get. And so the more area you're gonna cover, more than likely the thicker brush pen you want to use. So normally for most of these Inktobers, I tend to stick to using a brush pen, mostly because I can vary the line weight really quickly instead of having to switch from pen to pen. So this is just a really quick, brief example. And of course this is sped up a little bit, and I'm a little bit restricted by drawing on the drawing table underneath the camera. So I'm not necessarily using what I would say is the best technique, because there's a whole lot of wrist drawing, and in order to really effectively get some of the really strong lines that you need, oftentimes it'd be better off using your whole arm. Like that line that I was pulling across with that mouth, if I was on a different surface and I wasn't trying to stay underneath the camera, I would go single line on that. I mean, I ain't bragging.
Come on, buddy.
Okay, it sounds like bragging, but I ain't bragging. But it's something you gotta practice over and over and over again. But there's nothing wrong with using your wrist. You just have to keep in mind that you can end up with a lot of repetitive injuries from drawing a lot with your wrists. Make sure you're stretching your wrists out, doing all the necessary exercises to keep your wrist limber. So anyway, you can see that this is again one of those really stylized sort of characters, and you can see there's lines that I'm very sure about, and I'll just knock those lines out straight up. So in this case, I'm using another sheet of paper, primarily because my hands are sweaty. And so if I don't use the other sheet of paper, the ink is going to blur and mush all over the place. I probably should have spent a little extra to get a like a waterproof ink. Ooh man, my brain just froze for a second. Because if you get a waterproof ink, like a brush pen that has waterproof ink, then you could paint back into it You can do all sorts of things, and you don't have to worry about all the smudging. The two brush pens that I showed on here, they both are not waterproof. So once water hits them, they'll smudge all over the place. And so if you plan on doing watercolor or any water-based medium, like I'm doing right now, because I wasn't gonna do it, but I love painting, so I decided to paint. So I'm not really gonna talk too much about the painting because I've probably talked about that a number of times, but I would say you can see that there's a lot of color bleeding, and I don't really mind it much, actually. I'm a big fan of experimenting and messing stuff up. I think you discover some interesting techniques, some interesting approaches when you try some things that are, for lack of a better term, unconventional. Like if you know that your pens bleed when you put watercolor on it, you can end up with some really cool transitions that can happen. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. One thing I do a lot of though, I'll go back in with some acrylic and paint back into stuff when I need some highlights, because I'm not really that great at reserving areas of highlight, which would probably be a good idea. Same thing with reflected light. I love reflected light, so I usually go back in and put some reflected light in. And then I love the sign things. The signing things are cool. And then I hit it with some more lines. Hit it with some more lines. Hit it with some more lines. Just to shore up the lines a little bit, because from using the watercolor, it made some of the lines bleed a little bit. So I wanted to just give a little bit more weight to the line again. So the process is not a one-off where once you draw it, it's done. Iterate. Grade A fun. Boom.